We were shaken by witnessing our first death in Wabaku. It was the first death Lakin saw with her own eyes, and the aftermath was just as ugly. Deep sorrow mixed with angry accusations, village fighting, dangerous suspicions. It was a miserable time to be in Wabaku. But not too long after, Lakin would witness her second and third death right at the same time, and it all happened in one night. Darkness was settling over Wabaku again. Another productive day of language study, culture study, relationship building, done. But unfortunately, this day wasn't done. Some women came to our house frantically asking Lakin to follow them to Wabara's house. His wife, Kata, was having a baby, but something was going wrong. Lakin ran to Wabara's house and came back after just a few minutes. We turned on the internet to try to call the doctor or to try to reach out to any medical professionals we knew. Kata was bleeding, losing lots of blood, and the baby wasn't ready to come. A doula friend of ours, who is now a missionary in Indonesia, picked up the phone. The time zone difference over here meant that everybody in the West and the States was sleeping. Our doula friend told us to try elevating Kata's legs to slow the bleeding. Lakin rushed back to go try it. I stayed on the phone and then heard some difficult things. This doesn't sound good, our friend told me. Even if you were at a great hospital back in the States, I don't think there's anything that can be done. Lakin ran back and forth, trying whatever was advised, also to bring Kata water and clean sheets. And the other Wabaku women with Kata were rubbing Kata's skin with an oily leaf. They called it otebe, medicine. But as far as I can tell, all this otebe medicine does is gives you a poison ivy type rash. Yeah, but when the rash leaves, they say the sickness leaves with it. Lakin tried to stop them from rubbing this leaf on Kata's face, but they were determined. Then, while still on the phone, from the house, I heard the wailing begin. Kata was gone, along with her baby that was never delivered. Lakin came home and wept, defeated. Our missionary friend, still on the phone, tried to encourage Lakin. Even in the States, a team of doctors wouldn't have been able to do much else. It was a little comforting, but it was all heavy for Lakin to carry. They came to ask her for help, and she couldn't. The village drum rang out with the slow cadence announcing a death. Loud wailing erupted from every house in the village. Lakin just put her headphones on and went to bed. The next day was tense. Kata's husband, Wabra, was screaming at everybody, accusing them of angering the spirits with their lying, sleeping around, with their bad behavior. Angry defenses were being screamed back. The village was at each other's throats. Bows and arrows were out, threatening one another. And this was all happening over the loud wailing from both men and women at the loss of this young lady. No one was left to mourn in peace. They now had to fight off accusations of murder while they tried to weep. The day was ugly, and it also would have been Kata and Wabra's first child. That afternoon we buried Kata under their house, and the wailing is awful. There's a sing-songy melody to it, but the words are ad-libbed with each line. They kind of sing-song, they sing their sorrow. At first I didn't like it. I thought it seemed showy or disingenuous. It was loud, over the top, like they were doing it for others and not themselves. But I checked my cultural bias and saw something beautiful about it. This loud wailing was for others. It was showing the family that they weren't alone in their sorrow. Those in Kata's clan wailed loudly with this sing-songy wailing for hours. They also painted their faces black with ash. They laid in the dirt after she was buried, and all I could do was watch in somber silence. That night, the village drum rang out again. It was time for the seance to ask Kata's dead spirit who was responsible for her death. I debated going. I'd already seen this ritual, and I hated it. Communing with a dead spirit once was enough. But something in me made me not want to stay home. I got this bizarre idea, probably fueled by the sadness and anger I felt from watching this whole terrible day unfold. I walked toward the seance and straight towards the group of patriarchs about to enact the ritual. I didn't know if this was a good idea. I certainly didn't want to endorse this, but I really wanted to know what I was actually up against. So I asked the big men, "Can I go inside the house with you? I want to see what happens in there." They were surprised, kind of looked at each other, and then shrugged, quickly agreeing to let me go behind the curtain of their most sacred ritual. Now, this is probably something I should have asked the coworkers about before jumping into, but I was in more of a shoot first, ask questions later kind of mood. I followed them into the house, all the patriarchs, where Kata died the night before. Her bloodstains were still on the floor of the house. These village elders, 6 of them, myself, and then one younger man, Ile, went inside the house. A fire was already burning on the clay stove. The rest of the village was outside on the ground, staying away about 20 yards away from the house in a semicircle around it. There was silence outside, and then the ritual began. The younger man, Ile, was following instructions from the others. He grabbed a log from the fire in the house and carefully tied a jungle rope tightly around it. Ile must have been chosen to inherit this responsibility, this ritual from the older men. Another elder pulled back the bark floor, making a hole. Ile lifted the burning log tied with the rope and lowered the log through the floor down towards the ground. The burning log was dangling just off the ground when another man stood up to call out to Kata's spirit. "Kata, Kata," he called out. "Urua kenmi, amo oraima iwom. Marewan yauma. Tell us why you died. Whose fault is it? Who killed you?" Ile gripped the rope and closed his eyes. Then he began swinging the log gently. The man standing began calling names. Wakri, was Wakri responsible? Domo, was Domo responsible? He was asking Kata's dead spirit to respond. One by one, each man's name in the village was called out, waiting to see when Kata's dead spirit would reveal her killer by possessing Ile's arm to swing the burning log faster. Then a third man put his hand on top of Ile's hand and began swinging the log harder. "Faster," he whispered. More names were called. The man released Ile's hand and let him swing the rope alone again. I knew from last time that whenever the rope broke, the name being called right then was the man to be blamed for the death, blamed for angering the spirits who shot her with the invisible arrows. And then Dakin's name was called. Dakin is a sweet old man, loved by everybody. He's the least angry, most helpful man in the village, but it was his turn for his name to be called. Dakin, Dakin atiboro de keniye. And without warning, the rope broke and the log fell to the ground. The women outside shrieked, screamed, and began running away in every direction. The big men inside quickly yelled back in response, "Wait, no, we have to redo it." The screaming outside, eventually they were able to get it to stop. And then the old men told Ile, "Go bring everybody back and retie the log." Ile jumped outside down to the ground and said, "We have to redo it, wait. And then he retied the burning log to the rope and came back up inside. I kind of laughed to myself. Their most sacred ritual of determining the cause of somebody's death had spoken. But they didn't like the answer, so redo? The absurdity of it all kind of made me roll my eyes. What a silly game we were playing. When the rope was retied, they skipped to calling the names of known witch doctors in the area. So without delay, Ile started swinging the rope quickly. One name was called over and over. "Faster," they instructed Ile. They nodded to Ile in approval as he continued calling the same witch doctor's name on repeat, while Ile started swinging the rope hard, smashing it against the underside of the house's floor. Finally, the rope broke again. The log fell to the ground again. The women screamed. Everybody ran away again. And the old men inside this time were satisfied with the outcome. The responsible witch doctor was identified. They would then collect a small offering and send somebody to go pay this witch doctor, and then it was over. I went home smirking at what seemed to be so foolish to me. After seeing behind the curtain, how could anybody believe that this is real? It was so obviously a trick, a not so clever trick, that the old men were playing to continue this lie, that every death is murder, and that they can commune with the dead spirits to find out who's responsible. It was like an ape in a lion's skin. But despite seeing the lie behind the facade, I realized that it didn't matter. The strength of the enemy's stranglehold on the minds of the Wabaku people didn't ever depend on the ritual's integrity. If something went wrong, it was just a botched ritual. No one thought to question the lies behind the ritual. And the lies underneath were the real enemy.